Appreciate your time, Pete. Thanks for sitting with me today.
Pleasure,
And
mate. Nice meeting you at the beach yesterday.
yeah, funny how those things come together. I was on the phone yesterday and I was like, you'll never guess who I bumped into. And they had no idea who you were. So
Who's they?
a close friend.
Oh,
So for my audience, I'm just gonna ask you if you can introduce yourself and maybe give bit of an introduction to who you are and what your background is, and then we'll get the ball rolling.
okay. My name's Pete Evans. We're 50 years of age, and some people might know me from being on television for over 2 decades in the chefing realm. So I was a host of a show called Home on the Lifestyle Channel going back about 20 years ago. Then I did a show called Fish, where I traveled the country with my mate fishing and cooking. And then I hosted Channel 9's daytime show called Fresh for over 400 episodes. And then for 11 years, I hosted My Kitchen Rules, which was on Channel 7, and which was a reality-based cooking show. And I was a judge. And at the same time, for 8 years, I hosted a TV show in America for PBS called Movable Feast, where I traveled around the United States and different parts of the world, meeting great chefs from different parts of the world. And we cooked some delicious food together for guests. And subsequently, I created a 2-season TV series called The Paleo Way, which really explored how food can be either a slow or fast poison for us, or a healing modality, one of the I guess pillars of health. And subsequently, I created a documentary called The Magic Pill, which went on to Netflix for a couple of years, which would have been seen by millions of people. And that was based around the ketogenic paleo approach to eating. And yeah, that was really successful. And then I created a documentary called The Magic Plant, which focused on the history of cannabis in as many different perspectives as I could put into a documentary. And what else? Filmed a few docu episodes on different psychedelic medicines and different other tools that we have in our toolkit for long-term regenerative health. And I've been hosting a podcast for the last 5 years and conducted over 500 interviews with people from all around the world on, again, tools for long-term regenerative health. And for the last 3 years, my wife and I have running a wellness retreat between the Gold Coast and Byron Bay, about an hour inland from there. And we have 7 or 8 perfect strangers join us most weekends, from everything from fasting retreats, wellness retreats, yoga retreats, Pilates retreats, breathwork retreats, cooking retreats as well. And it's been a wonderful journey so far. And I've got a couple of teenage daughters that are nearly 18 and 19 years of age. So I'm a father and a son and a brother, and happily married to my wife for the last 13 years we've been together. And yeah, here I am. Surfer, skateboarder, skier, foil surfer, scuba diver, love fishing, love cooking, love eating, love resting, and love being a student of this life.
That was an amazing full spectrum response. A very
Oh,
good introduction.
and prior to that, I opened my first restaurant when I was 19 and went on to open 5 restaurants over 20 years, working 80 to 100-hour weeks for those 20 plus years, and then consulted on restaurants before we opened our wellness retreat. And that pretty much sums it up.
Incredible, man. Amazing.
Oh, and I wrote 25 cookbooks and books on the topic of culinary arts, which became Australia bestsellers. And yeah, there we go. And I've also been cancelled off Facebook and Instagram for my views about the COVID situation over the years too. So yeah, fascinating. You can find me on Telegram these days, the Uncensored Network, and I share information about the different aspects of the world and my life, and very focused on Bitcoin, psychedelics, long-term regenerative health, American politics, and the list goes on and on and on.
Incredible. I think that's why I'd connect with you on many of those levels. And yeah, I guess there's a lot of tangents that I wanted to go on today, but one of the big ones being, I guess, is the part of you being cancelled. And I was trying to actually watch your 60 Minutes interview last night, and I tried to look it up on YouTube, and the the amount of slandering that I saw and then didn't find the interview was yeah, I had a good chuckle. So
Well, we should
yeah,
put it into context for the viewers and listeners. So
yeah.
right in the first year of the COVID pandemic, I was invited to go on to 60 Minutes at the time. They are doing an episode about COVID conspiracies and the types of people that are out there that potentially are harming the population through their views and through the information they're sharing. So I agreed to do it, and I knew what I was stepping into. I was interviewed by Liz Hayes, who's a senior journalist or reporter for 60 Minutes at the time, and I only did it under the stipulation that I could film the entire interview and then release it at the same time as they released their episode onto mainstream media. And the intention that I had behind that was just to show how what you see is normally not the entire picture in the mainstream media world. We filmed for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and I put that out there from start to finish. And then people could see the edited version, and then people could see the unedited version. So we ended up having more views on the one that I released than Channel 9 had on their one that was watched by mainstream media. So that was a great experiment, and very grateful that I got to do that, because you know, for a lot of people, when they watch the television, they probably see it through one lens, in believing everything that they see, and that's the entire story. And after working in mainstream media for so long, I thought it was a great opportunity for people to see what the truth actually is. And yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, I just want to quickly honor you for that, and a very genius approach. I thoroughly enjoyed seeing the contrast at the time.
Yeah,
And
well, I don't know how many people actually saw the long version of it that would have watched the mainstream media version of it.
yeah.
So, but that's irrelevant. I never have any expectations over how many people see or watch what I share. You know, that's irrelevant for me. But I like to explore my own reality and my perceptions on life, and be able to dive deep into what I think is relevant for myself to express, and whether that lands with anybody or resonates with anybody or triggers anybody, or that's up to them.
Amazing. Yeah, a big topic I guess I want to kind of dive into is yes, sort of standing in your truth, but I guess in being in quite a spotlight position. And I guess in my own experience, I've had my own kind of version of that, not to the same magnitude, but yeah, I feel like it's a really it can be quite a make or break thing for a person. I think especially if your own truth is ends up being suppressed, even if that's not by someone else, but even yourself. So I guess I want to ask, like, what what was the motivation that made you step into speaking your truth, I guess, on that sort of platform. And what did you consider the consequences of not sharing your views?
Yeah, well, I think everybody deep down knows where they are in their life based off the choices that they have made and are making in a minute-to-minute decision. And for me, as mentioned, the documentary that I made called The Magic Pill and the Paleo Way really opened my eyes to seeing how much the mainstream narratives and some of the industries that are out there, such as the medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the agricultural industry, the chemical industry, the political game that is being played with people's tax dollars as well, to see how there is quite a lot of deception, criminality, and I guess lies that are perpetuated to the public, and sometimes not not shared with the public as well. And when COVID came along, it was just another invitation for me to choose whether or not I would explore what that particular point in time was really about. And through the documentary that I made about the food industry and the medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry called The Magic Pill, we could see the deception that was being played out on the public in relation to dietary nutritional advice and how it had been corrupted at such a very, very deep level and for such a very long time as well. And how it had sort of permeated every sector of Western lifestyle, from the foods that are promoted through the mainstream narrative, from the foods that you're allowed to serve at hospitals, daycare centers, childcare centers, schools, prisons, what the dietitians actually promote for people with type 2 diabetes, for instance, what the healthy food guidelines are promoted through different Western cultures, and how they have been corrupted at such a very, very deep level. And none of them, none of the information that they share is, in my opinion, designed to make people healthy. In fact, I would go so far as to say it's actually designed to keep people and create a sickness industry for the players that would benefit the most from people being sick, people being unhealthy, people being on subscription-based medicine, people being weak-minded, people being fragile-minded as well, with mood swings and irritability and depression and anxiety, and the list goes on and on and on. So with COVID, when that came about, I knew the consequences of me speaking out, but I was very, very prepared to take whatever was thrown at me. And if that was cancellation, so be it. If it was being put in jail, so be it. If it was loss of life, so be it. I was prepared to walk that path, either individually, by myself, or with other people that were in the same frame of mind as I was, which was seeing it for what it was and what it is and what it continues to be, and not being afraid to be able to offer a different perspective and inviting people to think about what this period of time is really about. And, without telling anybody what it's about, if that makes sense as well, because the last thing I want to do is tell anybody how to think, tell anybody what they should be doing. But I come at things with more of a curious and invitational manner, where it's about inviting people to perhaps look at different, through a different lens or different lenses of perception. And I continue to do that, and I enjoy doing that. And I will have the caveat here as saying please do not believe anything that I share. Have as much skepticism and curiosity and discernment with anything that anybody shares to you, whether it be a stranger, whether it be a loved one, whether it be even yourself, to that matter. I was having this conversation with someone last night, and they asked me what do they think about the situation they're in, and I said, well, how do you feel it? Are you in doubt? Perhaps if you're in doubt, then the decision isn't ready to be made. You know, the old saying, if in doubt, leave it out. But if it's a full-bodied decision where you don't see any other way of not being able to take that decision, and you know exactly what you need to do at this particular point in time, then trust that. And in saying that, I said to the person after that, I said, you cannot make any wrong decisions in life if you make them. There are no such things as mistakes. If you have chosen that decision over another decision, you know, you will end up at the same result somewhere down your journey. It may take a bit longer to get to that, but what you will learn on that journey is paramount to your eternal growth and realization about who you are. And ultimately, that's the ultimate question that we can ask ourselves is, who am I? You know, so much of our identity is based around our beliefs. And the question that I like to invite people to explore is, where did I adopt or inherit or was forced upon this belief that I have about this, that, and the other? And that continual questioning of who I am and how did I create these beliefs in my life, I believe is a really beautiful journey that each of us can take or not. It's
Yeah.
I do not believe there is anyone more enlightened on this planet than anybody else. I believe we are all equal in that regard. When people say people are asleep, you know, I do not believe that. That's just a point of view and a belief that somebody has. I believe we are all equal, and everything that is unfolding for every single person on this planet is perfect for them and the ripple effect that it'll have with their community or family.
Incredible. Thanks for sharing that. I'm a big believer that many truths make up the whole truth. And it's with like leaving out or suppressing one or many truths kind of doesn't really allow us to tap into the whole. And so it's really interesting how yeah, there's a lot of voices being suppressed, and I think in that process stopping us from seeing the bigger picture. And so
And
it's
I think that is perfect too. You know, if full censorship comes through, then that is perfect. You know, it's collectively what we need to experience for some reason. You know, we might not have all the answers now, but, you know, I look back at COVID and, you know, I had many friends that were really angry and frustrated and this, and I just said, can you allow it to play out and be neutral where it won't affect you emotionally, and have the trust and surrender into this period of human history where perhaps you can't see the answer just yet or the answer's unfolding just yet, but can you have the trust and the acceptance that this is absolutely what humanity needs to go through at this particular point in time? And, you know, I think it's, looking back at it, I think it is, that's my perception on it anyway, is exactly the right thing at exactly the right time to play out for us. And, you know, the thing about censorship and suppression of voices, I feel exactly the same way, that this is perfectly unfolding for the greater humanity. And perhaps we can't see the long-term repercussions of this, but can we trust that it is actually what potentially needs to be happening for us at this particular point in time? Is it too much of a leap for us to trust in the corruption that is being exposed at the moment? I absolutely love it because every day you get to see more and more of it, and perhaps not anything is being done that a lot of people would like to be done at the moment. And that's where we have to surrender to our individual timelines of what we expect to be happening based off our own beliefs, and then just surrender
Yeah.
to it and go. And I will go back to you about the truth, the idea about truth. And one thing that I've learned through my experience, and this is just my perception, is the paradoxical nature that we all have, where two opposing truths can coexist at the same time and be at opposite ends of the spectrum, but both be truthful. And once we can accept that and surrender to that, then I believe that is true freedom for us to be able to navigate this world. And, you have your truth, I have my truth. The politician and the government has their truth. Bill Gates has his truth, and this, that, and the other. And, who's to say who's right and who's wrong? And when we take away that judgment,
Mhm.
it's a very deep um, trust that I invite people to explore. When we take away judgment between what's right and what's wrong, what's good and bad, and just sit in a place that consciousness wants to experience it all without judgment, then we can get to see and witness the awe and beauty of this experience, the horror and tragedy and I guess, pain of this experience of the human journey and everything in between those two um, very polarizing experiences, and just be grateful for it all. Because I do believe the human experience is, we are here to be able to feel it all. Some people to say to heal it all, but I come from the belief that nobody needs to be healed, and that everybody's individual life is their medicine, and it's up to them if they choose to evolve from where they're at. And evolving doesn't mean, again, becoming more enlightened or more anything. It's just individual choices that we get to make of a day to day. If we wake up feeling lethargic, do I like feeling lethargic? Fuck, it's pretty good to feel lethargic, because if you do not want to feel lethargic, at least you have a barometer or an experience of what it feels like to then choose how not to feel lethargic. What does it feel like to have great vitality daily? you know if we get to experience that, then we have I guess a barometer for, oh, I actually like feeling like this, so what have I done to feel like this? Did I go to bed early last night? What did I eat yesterday that make me wake up feeling vibrant today? What did I take out of my diet? What did I take out of my experience, or what did I add to my experience to make me feel like this? And do I choose to feel like this? And some people set up sabotage in their belief patterns. Oh, shit, I don't want to feel too good for too long, because last time that happened, something came along and just wiped me wiped me out of feeling like that. So I don't want to feel too good because I'm scared of the potential of not feeling good. So I don't really want to get to that point again. And we play these patterns and these beliefs out in our day-to-day lives. And you know, as I said, nothing's right, nothing's wrong, nothing's good, nothing's bad. It's just our perception on it. And we have the tools in which, if we choose to have long-term regenerative health, the information is out there for us if we're willing to explore that and become curious as to what resonates for my body, and what works for me may not be advantageous to somebody else. And that's why comparison is it's such an interesting thing, because if you go on social media, for instance, or you read a book that somebody has written, they will tell you what makes them feel good. But their life story is completely different to anybody else's life story. It's where they were born, how they were raised, did they receive love, can they give love unconditionally, and the list goes on and on and on. So I would
Mm.
always be very cautious and use discernment when comparing ourselves with anybody else, because, as I said, each one of us is so unique and individual that, again, your story is your medicine, and your life experience is your medicine or your poison. And then we get to go deeper, if we choose to discover what hinders us and what strengthens us. And that can be that can be an ongoing journey for the rest of our life. And you know, I love it. I love the mystery, and I love not knowing it all. And yeah, and I enjoy a good cup of tea too.
That's amazing. And I love how you can bring, yeah, quite a playful approach to it all. I think that's really, really important. Something that I think's really helped me is the idea that to deny someone's truth is to deny their experience.
Mm.
Because not only does that let us honor our own experience and our own truth, but it also gives understanding to, yeah, someone else's experience. And I think that's the missing piece. It's like, how can we explore all of these different ideas without denying someone from their experience?
Well, that's acceptance. I believe that's
Yeah.
acceptance. Accepting
Yeah.
everybody for where they are and who they've chosen to be at all times. And that is what's called unconditional love. You love
Mm.
everybody regardless of whether they trigger you or the circumstances, and just accept them, because people are just reacting out of their patterns and their beliefs. And we do not know their backstory. We do not know how they were raised, what small splinters they might have had at a very young age that have not been removed and continue to fester. And for some, it can be a very great wound, where it has been physically induced or sexually induced or emotionally induced by some of the people that they've loved unconditionally as a child. And for others, it can be, being laughed at school by a friend, or not being good enough at school to get an A in a um, a crazy thing of education in mathematics or English. And some people are really switched on to understanding mathematics. Other people are really creative with the way that they use their vocabulary. Other people are very artistic. And but that not being able to achieve in the perception of, whether it be our parents or society or culture, can be a splinter that is, again, can fester very deeply. And it didn't need to be that physical or sexual or emotional abuse. It can just be that lack of self-worth. It can be failure in the eyes of why aren't I as smart as that person? Why aren't I, in teenage years or adult years, why can't I attract a person that, into a romantic relationship? Why is that? Why do I sabotage these relationships? Or why do I choose somebody that cheats on me? This, that, and the other, and it could be just that some of those small little splinters that have festered into this belief system that can really shock our foundation. And the exploration or the curiosity or the investigation or the invitation is to look at ourselves and see if we hold any of these splinters. I use that as a metaphor or an analogy. I never know which terminology to use for that, and see if any are festering. See if we collect any on our day-to-day adventures in this life. Did I collect a splinter today? What was it? Was it somebody at the grocery store that gave me a dirty look? Was it the person that pulled in front of me and tooted their horn and because I was driving like a fuckwit, or whatever it may be, And sometimes these splinters can really fester in us. And yeah,
Mm.
so it's I always say to people, enjoy the adventure of life. Like, don't take it too seriously, or take it really seriously. It's up to you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I'd definitely lean towards the take it less seriously. Yeah, that's incredible. There's yeah, so many things I guess I could unpack in that, and so many different tangents we could go on. Um, but I guess like yeah, I guess what I kind of want to focus on in terms of like what we can offer to a greater audience is is I guess like your experience in connecting to that part of yourself that is I guess navigating these splinters and these fragments of our own experience. And I feel like a lot of those came out in the pandemic for a lot of people, and myself included. And I think you were, yeah, quite a defining character, which was that you held your own, what was maybe extreme views, but without this kind of like reactionary motive. And I think that's like a very important part, because if we're like in that reaction place and we're acting on the splinters or the fragments of ourselves, we're not really hearing the other person. We're very much just in our own experience. So is there much you could share on that? Like I guess in the unfolding of where you found that within yourself, or where there was like a maybe is there a starting point?
Hmm. It's a big question. It's because a lot of people are looking for that magic pill, like the name of our documentary, that that one defining moment that changes everything for us, and what I've come to believe is it's just an accumulation of experiences in our life that create, as you said, the character, the ego, the identity in which the masks that we wear. And I'll use that in a plural term, because we do wear many different masks, whether we're around our children, whether we're around our lover, whether we're around our parents or siblings or our work colleagues or people in the surf. If you're jostling for a wave, it's very different than standing in a line of a supermarket. We have this unique ability to change our character if we choose to at any given moment. And sometimes it's really called for, if you need to step up and roar like a lion, for instance, if you're seeing somebody being attacked in the street or something happening, that instinct or that primal instinct will come out. Or if you see somebody that needs nurturing and comfort, that also, that primal instinct of tenderness and caress and caring will come out. And sometimes you do not want to be that tender, caressing person in a situation where you need to become the lion, in that moment. So yeah, because some people do, oh, I'm just going to be nice and soft, and I'm going to be a people pleaser, and I just want peace and love all the time. So yes, that's a great, very noble belief. But in our day-to-day life, sometimes we do need to roar or step up or be more vital in certain situations. I often, my wife is great, 'cause she's just like, you're a very different person. We go surfing sometimes. She goes, you turn into an animal in the surf. You're just like out there to hunt the waves. And I'm like, yeah. I said, I got an hour to go surfing. I'm gonna all in, and be that alpha male. Then when I'm with my daughters, or with my wife, it we change the way that we behave, and I think that's a really healthy thing.
Mm,
And uh, but in saying that as well, this is where the sort of the paradox comes in, is, and I know your question is sort of the defining moments of these types of decisions in which to stand your ground or speak your truth, and they are accumulative. But at the deep core of it, I think it's a deep trust in oneself, in one's ego. And ego, in a lot of spiritual or new agey types of conversations, is seen as a dirty word. But we need our ego equally as much as our godlike source consciousness ability to detach and to surrender and to trust and to have that unconditional love equally. So it's this beautiful dance that we have between the ego and the, I don't like to use the word higher self because I don't think there's anything higher than self anyway, the embodied self. But to answer your question, there's so many modalities out there in which we can garner deeper exploration into who we are. Different modalities such as meditation, fasting, breath work, psychedelics or entheogenic medicines that are out there, different therapists that are out there, different body work techniques, different movement practices, different ways of eating as well. These can really be so powerful for one's identity and ego, but at the same time for our, again, and I don't like to use the word God because I'm not religious in any way, shape, or form, but our godlike self. Because through my experiences of especially the strongest known psychedelic that we know of, or that I know of, is called 5-MeO-DMT, which is comes from the Bufo alvarius toad in the Sonoran Desert. That has been the greatest teacher for me, or one of the greatest teachers for me on my journey, on this journey so far. And if you haven't investigated or understand or know what 5-MeO-DMT is, I highly invite you to explore that wonderful chemical or compound that we have endogenously inside of us. We have this remarkable molecule. It's a little different from DMT, if you understand what DMT is, but 5-MeO-DMT is such a profound tool, if that is in your path. And I'm not advising anybody to take psychedelics or going onto that journey, but it definitely is worth exploration in understanding what it is, and whether that's through listening to podcasts, whether it's through reading books. And there are some beautiful books out there. Martin W. Ball is a wonderful author who's written 2 phenomenal books about 5-MeO-DMT. His first book was called Being Human. It's a small book, but very profound. And the second book is called Entheogenic Liberation, using 5-MeO-DMT in clinical settings. And that psychedelic journey, what that offers individuals is pretty much with every other psychedelic that's on the planet that we know of, that we have a relationship with, if we choose to have a relationship with it, whether it be psilocybin mushrooms, LSD, ketamine, MDMA, San Pedro, or Wachuma, as it's known, or peyote, another cactus, or the South American or Central American ayahuasca, for instance, or iboga that comes out of Africa. All of those psychedelics or entheogenic medicines, entheogenic means awakening the divine within. All of those, when you ingest them, you still have the sense of identity. So if Pete was sitting with ayahuasca in a ceremony, or psilocybin mushrooms, and I ingest the medicine, I would always understand that Pete Evans has just ingested a medicine, and the journey that I go on is related to my identity and my ego. What happens with 5-MeO-DMT, the Bufo alvarius toad medicine, is because of the molecule and the chemical interaction with our neural pathways, it shuts down our default mode network, which pretty much houses our identity or our ego. So it takes away, when you ingest it, and you do it through smoking this substance, it overrides our sensory data. So our senses, from our vision, our sight, our hearing, our touch, our smell, our feeling. And when you have that experience of basically egoic death, because that's what it does, it's not so much the science behind it, it overwhelms our sensory data processing. And in that process, or in that experience, what happens is you not only go through your own egoic death or identity death, but you go through what I would call not a physical death, but it does feel like you're dying, and to surrender into that and trust that experience. And once that happens, and it's very difficult for me to put into any English language, because all language is based around our senses. So very, very difficult for me to explain what I'm about to explain for people to understand, because it's an experiential knowledge or wisdom. But in that experience, Pete disappears, dissolves. That's probably the best definition that I can have, is my identity dissolves into everything that ever has been and everything that ever will be, in every possible permutation of existence. So you have that experience, but you are not there to experience it. You are the experience of infinite consciousness or eternal consciousness. No birth, no death, no beginning, no end, no light, no dark, but you experience everything. That's the best way to do it. So through that experience, and what I love about that experience is, one, it gives me a greater appreciation of this one individual life that I get to play in this character of Pete Evans. Because in this experience, I get to see the sunrise. I get to see the smiles on my children. I get to see my beautiful wife. I get to taste some amazing food. I get to smell the forest or some flowers, or the smells that permeate when I'm roasting a beautiful pork belly, then the crackling and these types of things. I get to touch and feel so much of this experience. So for me, it created a greater experience of this human experience, but also for me anyway, it removed all fear of this human experience and what death means as well. So for me, I see this as a beautiful playground to experience life through this human vehicle. And at the same time, what I gained from sitting with that medicine is a deep sense of non-judgment, which is it's my daughter just walked in. Hello. I'm just doing a podcast. I won't be too long. A deeper appreciation of that, no judgment, no right, no wrong, no good, no bad. And I know that can be a big thing to contemplate, but yeah, it's helped me a great deal.
Yeah, incredible response. I do really appreciate the depth of your answers. It's very refreshing. And I guess something that came up when you were explaining all of that is with all of the tools that we can have access to, what they allow us to do is create a contrast to our experience. So we might live a certain way our whole lives, and then if we adopt a new habit or ritual, or especially if we're taking like a substance that's going to affect our physical biology, we're creating a contrast to what our known experience is. And then we can kind of see, I guess, the illusion that we've created for ourselves. And it's just really, that's, yeah, really interesting that that just came through. So I appreciate, yeah, your response. It's I think I'm really gonna have to look into everything you just explained, but awesome. Oh, so good, man. I guess where I want to take this from here is, and it'll probably just sort of like wrap things up, but I guess I tried to touch on it earlier, but I guess in speaking your truth and coming to a place within yourself to speak that so freely, is there an inner strength that you were able to tap into? And is that something that, yeah, has like assisted you in challenging that part of yourself?
Yeah, it's not so much challenging myself. Yeah, I'm very cautious with the language that we use, the vocabulary that we use. I think that's, well, I don't think, I know that is one of the greatest adventures we can go on, is to look at the words that we use on a day-to-day basis, whether it be externally to friends, family, colleagues, strangers, but also internally to ourselves. It can be often overlooked or overlooked and misunderstood. And I invite people to, over the next week or two, to go on the adventure of not only listening to what comes out of your own mouth when you're explaining something to your friends or lovers or colleagues or whoever it may be, but also to yourself when you're having your thoughts about what you might like to do today or tomorrow. Um, but also listen to um, your friends and family and colleagues around you and how they speak and what words they use to tell their story. And it can be one of the most rewarding adventures to go on. And the reason I say that is when we start to have this deep awareness is to the words that we use on a day-to-day basis to describe our situation. Well, I do this a lot, and whenever I meet people, as you were talking about earlier, one of the great things to do is listen. And there's an old saying, the greatest doctor is the one that shuts up and listens, because the patient will eventually tell the doctor what is wrong with them, but how they got to that particular point of illness as well. And they have the patient has the solution as well. And that's a deep belief that I have, is we have all of our answers. If we manifest a illness in ourselves, we have the ability to manifest health in ourselves as well. So when we go on this adventure of listening to how other people see the world, we can see that many people, not all, but many people use the words as everything's hard, or I've tried that and it didn't work, or I just can't do that. It's all too hard. And you start to see the spells, because every time we say that something is too hard, or I've tried that, or I can't, and we get to see how we're programming ourselves, because as you may know, we have 50 trillion cells in our body, and they're all listening to everything, all the data that we're giving it, but especially how we believe and how we speak to ourselves and to others. And it's a great opportunity to be able to be aware of the patterns that we are continuing to live out on our day-to-day lives, and whether that's to do with financial situations, whether it's to do with relationship situations, whether it's to do with family conflicts or this, that, and the other. You know, when you start to see it, you can't unsee it. And when you start to see it in yourself, you can't unsee it. And then that's the invitation to be able to choose. So using words like inner strength, um, we all have that capacity. No one has more inner strength than anybody else because we're all the same. Um, it's whether we are open to exploring where we may have a potential weakness currently, or where things are not, it's even weakness isn't the right word, where things aren't flowing congruently in our being. Yeah, I'm being very careful which words to use because I don't want to project any I guess self-limiting beliefs, one on myself or out of
Mm,
myself and into
mm,
anybody else. And a great thing, and I do enjoy to do this, is to go onto social media, and I follow a lot of different people in the self-help or empowerment um, industry and or characters, I should say, and people that like to share with other people how to be strong, how to achieve, how to be successful. you know?
mm,
And it's interesting when you start to look at the vocabulary they use. It's really interesting. One of the words two of the words I never use. I should never say never, but the other one is should. Um,
mm. That's been
should
a
is
big theme for me this week.
Yeah, it's it's it's
Yeah,
it's a it's a huge one. Um, but
yeah.
that could be a really nice starting point. Look at some of the people that perhaps are inspiring, and look at the vocabulary they're using, and see where the disharmony may be in what they're sharing out there. Um, and I'm not picking on that. I'm just using that as an example, as an invitation for exploration. Again, without judgment, but just with discernment, so you can
Mm,
see perhaps. And I'll give you an example. You know, a lot of people say we need to work hard. Which I do not agree with. Work and hard. It's like, really?
mm,
Do you really think human beings, that's our purpose, is to work hard? Work hard at what? Oh, well, you have to work hard to succeed. Well, what is success? What is success? And people used to ask me this so many times because in their eyes, and as I explained at the start when you said introduce yourself, best-selling author, host of the #1 TV show, oh, you're very successful. And I'd always respond by, what's your definition of success or being
mm,
successful? What is that to you? Is it how famous you are? How much money you have in your bank account? Because for me, successful is having a good night's sleep, cooking a really beautiful meal for myself or my family, and having a surf here and there. And,
mm,
as less, the least amount of stress in my life as possible. And some people will say, well, to be less stressful, you need more money, or you need to be successful and famous to have less stress. And I'm like, have you seen the amount of suicides that happen and overdoses and alcoholism and drug dependence that happens to famous, successful people? Like, so
mm,
that those ideas of defining what words are. And so I do not have the belief that you need to work hard to succeed. I actually have the opposite view. You know, I
mm,
believe that
mm,
that ease and fluidity and flexibility is success. That's my perception. Whereas if you went to a business entrepreneurial workshop, they'd be like, you got to fucking work harder than everybody else because fucking everybody's hungry and it's like a fight out there. There's no fight out there. And the same in the truth movement. I follow a lot of people and they think we're in a war. We're in a spiritual war at the moment, or we're the agenda. We have to fight against this agenda. I'm like, well, who are you if you don't have an enemy to fight? I have no enemies. I don't believe we need to fight anything. You know, I trust that everything is perfect at all times. And if it's not, I will do what I can to get to that state of ease and flow. And we can flow through this life with grace and ease and love if we choose to. And I'm not saying it's you know, every day is going to be a as you said, a non-challenging adventure. But I do like to use that word adventure because when we do go on an adventure, yeah, there is going to be some moments where it can be walking up the hill. It can be a little bit more challenging at the moment, you know. That's why I always equate life to an adventure. You know, then we go down the hill, then we can take a rest. You know, we're not going the whole time, and that deep relaxation and that deep rest is sometimes overlooked for individuals, and there can be such profound enjoyment in that deep rest and relaxation, and equally in play as well. And play is often overlooked. And I looked at your Instagram yesterday when you sent me the link, and I can see, Kev, that you like to play on your scooter and this, that, and the other. And you know, yeah, children love to play. Why is it when we become adults that play is something that we only reserve for skiing holidays or surfing holidays, or some people have very little play in their life, whereas once upon a time they used to play as kids all the time, but things get too serious and for some. And I always invite people, if you are not playing in your life at the moment and you choose to, and you don't know what you can play at, go back to your childhood. What used to bring you joy as a child in that playing realm? And if none of that resonates anymore, then just have curiosity and be curious to explore all the different things that are available to us that can offer us that childlike nature in that ability to play. And yeah, I think that balance of play, rest, relaxation, determination, working hard, if you choose to use that word, or going on the adventure, you know, and you'll know when you're out of balance or out of harmony in one area. If you're playing too much and
Yeah.
you're not getting the money to pay the bills, you know, that you will feel the tension there, you know. And perhaps you need to go and pursue a career, or dive into that a little bit more, so you will have a little bit more time to balance these things out. If you're staying up too late at night and not getting enough rest, then you'll know that. That's why we have all the answers in us at all times.
Beautiful, mate. It's something that's really rung true to me is that we're trusting in the process either way. It's either we're trusting that it's all going to work out, or we're trusting that it's not. And so it's, for me, quite a distinctive choice if we can lean into trusting.
And then surrendering.
And surrendering.
And then accepting.
And then accepting. Yeah, I think that's the formula. If there was one.
It could be. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. That's incredible. Well, we might wrap it up. I think I've got all the juice I need. So I really appreciate your time, Pete. And is there anything on your heart at the moment, or something that you want to share with the world?
No, mate, I think we covered it there pretty much. I appreciate you saying g'day while I was walking with the kids yesterday, and yeah, grateful for this exchange and opportunity to share. And I will just say, I think I might have said it at the start, but everything that I've said, if it doesn't resonate with you, let it go. If it does resonate with you, fantastic. If it triggers you, fantastic. Yeah, enjoy the adventure. Love you all. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Pete. Cheers.
Cheers, brother.